Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Monday, April 14th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks. It's going to be 5 players in total, 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. That's going to be based on a combination of their past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Monday's slate overall. And then in the morning, I will be posting a weather report that's going to have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher down in that comment section. That will be left as a pinned comment. If there's changes to that throughout the day, I'll leave that down there as well. And then I will also be getting to as many of the starting lineups as I can get to down in that comment section. So definitely be looking out for all that information. But without further ado, we're going to get right into the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position with a familiar face. We played him last week. Unfortunately, did not turn out too well for us. But we're going right back to the well with Dylan Cease. He's $8,400. Looks like a really good value here. Goes against the Cubs team that's been hitting the ball pretty well as of late. However, Dylan Cease has really good history versus the Chicago Cubs in his career. Last year, he made 2 starts against them, had 67 and 49 fantasy points. So definitely do like his upside at $8,400. If we look at what he's done so far in the season, obviously he's had the 3 starts, averaging 23 fantasy points per game. And obviously the numbers are going to be a little bit inflated for that most recent start. So he has 1 win, ERA is just under 8 because of that. So like I said, this last start, not good whatsoever. He gave up 9 earned runs in 4 innings. You know, the first start was a little bit hit or miss, but we were talking about going against the Atlanta Braves in that first start, and then the Athletics over in Sacramento, which is apparently a hitter's park in a pretty big way, at least early on so far this season. Definitely do like the upside of Dylan Cease. You know, if you want to play a different pitcher, definitely do understand that at the same time as well. We do have some other great options out there, including Tariq Skubal, Sonny Gray, and Shane Baz, just to name a few, but a lot of good pitchers out there. Definitely feel free to mix and match, but definitely do like the value of Dylan Cease overall for today. Then we're going to move down to first base with Paul Goldschmidt. He's $2,900, averaging about 9.5 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Kansas City Royals. Seth Lugo is the expected starting pitcher for them. He's fared really well versus Seth Lugo in his career, 7 for 11 with 2 home runs. And if we look at what Paul Goldschmidt's done as of late, he has at least 1 hit in 8 out of his last 9 games, 5 multi-hit games during that time span. The one downside with him is he has not hit for power during that time, but, you know, it's a good matchup for Seth Lugo. He's had homered off of before, so I'd like a little bit of that upside there. Only 2 double-digit performances, so that is maybe a small concern, but he does have at least 9 fantasy points in 6 of those games, so definitely has a relatively safe floor. Obviously, the history there versus Seth Lugo makes him a really attractive player just in general. If we look at what he's done on the season in totality, .357 average, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, once again average about 9.5 fantasy points per game at $2,900. Definitely does look like a really good value there overall. Then we're going to move down to second base with Gleyber Torres. Recently came off that injured list. He's $3,100, averaging just over 12 fantasy points per game. And he is one of the few Tigers hitters who does have a larger sample size versus Tyler Alexander in his career. If you're not familiar with Tyler Alexander, he did start off his career with the Detroit Tigers, so that would be a good reason why a lot of these guys have not faced him too much in the past. But Gleyber Torres is 2 for 7 with 1 home run versus Tyler Alexander in his career. He is technically on a 4-game hitting streak, although, you know, 2 games before the injury, 2 games after the injury. 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, 2 double-digit performances, and it has at least 9 fantasy points in 3 of the 4 games that he has played so far this season. So definitely do like his upside versus Tyler Alexander. If you want to go with the Detroit stack, definitely does make a lot of sense. He is expected to hit leadoff for them once again, and he is currently hitting .400 on the season with 1 home run, 1 RBI, and averaging just over 12 fantasy points per game. Then we are going to move down to shortstop with Bobby Witt Jr. at $4,000. Goes against the New York Yankees. Carlos Carrasco on the mound. A lot of these Royals hitters don't have like a long list of history versus Carlos Carrasco, but Bobby Witt Jr. is 2 for 3 with 1 home run versus Carrasco in his career. He's on a modest 6-game hitting streak, 2 multi-hit games during that time span. Unfortunately, no home runs. Does have 4 double-digit performances and at least 9 fantasy points in 5 of those 6 games. So definitely do like the floor with Bobby Witt Jr., but also does offer some solid upside at the same time as well, whether that is the potential for him to hit a home run off of Carlos Carrasco, steal base. He's obviously a 5-tool player and can pay off in a pretty big way. $4,000 price tag, yes, we're paying up, but we did save some money at that pitcher position just in general. But if we look at what Bobby Witt Jr. has done on the season so far, .305 average, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, once again averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game at $4,000. So definitely do like his upside in this matchup and this Royals team overall. The one like lone Royals player that has a long list history versus Carlos Carrasco is going to be Salvador Perez. Obviously, he's been around for a little bit longer than some of these other young Royals hitters just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved down to outfield with Shohei Ohtani at $4,300. So a little bit of a reduced price tag for Shohei on this slate overall. He's averaging just under 14 fantasy points per game. Obviously, he's been a little bit slower to start the year for his expectations, and especially as of late. So that's still not saying that he's a great player, because he is, but for Shohei Ohtani, maybe a little bit of a downturn, although, he's got the 4 home runs on the season. But in his career versus Antonio Senzatella, the expected starting pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, he is 3 for 5. And Shohei Ohtani, if we look at what he's done as of late, at least 1 hit in 4 out of his last 5 games, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, only 2 double-digit performances, so that is kind of that concern there at $4,300, but he does have at least 9 fantasy points in 3 of the 5 games that I am mentioning at the same time as well. Once again, if we look at what he's done so far in the season, 295 average, 4 home runs, 5 RBIs, averaging just under 14 fantasy points per game at $4,300. I definitely do like his upside going against Antonio Senzatella and the Colorado Rockies for Monday night, and obviously he is one of those 5-tool players too that obviously can pay off in a lot of different ways, whether that's hitting a home run, stealing a base. There is lots of opportunities for him, and I definitely do like the buy low spot at $4,300. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, definitely don't have to do that. Stacks are going to play a big part on Monday's slate overall. Obviously, feel free to mix and match at that pitcher position once again as well. But $12,300 remaining, just under $3,100 per player. So looks like a little bit more like a balanced build. There is some potential values out there, just depending on who's in that starting lineup, who's not. But at least early on, the guys kind of right in the middle of the pack are the ones that stand out for the most part today overall. But with that being said, we'll get over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Monday's slate. So we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously, going against Antonio Senzatella is going to be a very attractive matchup for them. Obviously, really good lineup. Senzatella is not striking anybody out, at least early on this season. He's walking guys at the same time as well. So some pretty decent upside there for that Dodgers stack, whether that is Shohei Ohtani. Michael Conforto is a guy that has hit him really well in the past as well. Not doing the best as of late, so that's why he's not in my core picks, but definitely a name to consider out there for your Dodgers stacks. And then we move down to the Kansas City Royals. Mentioned this a little bit in the core picks, but a lot of these young hitters have not faced Carlos Carrasco too much in the past, but definitely do like getting to Bobby Witt Jr. I like getting to some Salvador Perez. He's the one guy that has a long list of history. First, Carlos Carrasco, obviously he's been around for a little while now at this point in time. If Maikel Garcia ends up starting, he's going to be a very interesting option as well. And then monitor the status of Jonathan India, who has had some success versus Carrasco as well, but is currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. And then last but not least, we have the Detroit Tigers going against Tyler Alexander. Like I mentioned when I was talking about Gleyber Torres, a lot of these Tigers hitters haven't faced Tyler Alexander too much in the past. There's a good reason for that. He was their teammate for a good majority of his career up until, I believe, last year where he pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now he's with the Brewers. He's a guy that does have some strikeout upside. He's a guy that does have some walk issues at times as well. So there could be some potential for this Tigers lineup. I definitely like getting to Gleyber Torres and a couple other bats from this lineup at the same time as well. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my core picks, as well as top GPP stacks for Monday, April 14th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, in the morning, I'll be listing my weather report that will have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. If there's any changes to that throughout the day, I'll be leaving updates down there, as well as many starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely on the lookout for all that. If there's any other additional changes to my core, like one of these guys not ultimately ending up in the starting lineup, we'll leave that down there as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks Monday through Friday. Got my UFL DFS video going up once a week. That will typically be on either Tuesday or Wednesday. I know as of late it's kind of been more on the Wednesday side. Probably going to ultimately end up being on Wednesday once again this week, since we do have a baseball game happening on Tuesday. So probably going to be a little bit shorter on time on that day just in general. And then last but not least, I will be dropping some NFL draft content in the coming days as well, especially as we do lead up to the actual NFL draft. I'll be dropping some graphics both on the YouTube community tab, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, whichever platform you ultimately do prefer. So definitely be sure to check out my top 10 rankings by position over on all those platforms. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Monday, April 14th.